Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast alongside Joey Dwyer. I'm Billy Derrick as we are here to recap Vanderbilt's 36-23 loss to Tennessee here in Nashville at FirstBank Stadium. It was, I say, beautiful. I mean, the sun was out. It was pretty chilly, of course, but not bitterly cold or anything. So I don't think the cold had much of an effect on Nico, obviously, in Tennessee. The early kick didn't really have much effect on Tennessee, and maybe early, right? Vanderbilt jumping out to a 14-0 lead, and all of a sudden you're sitting here saying, is this going to be Vanderbilt, Alabama all over again? Does Vanderbilt have some magic today? And then they get up 17-7 at one point, and they're driving early, and then Pavia throws an interception, and that's when it felt like a lot of things flipped. I know Tennessee threw an interception there late too. Right after that. Tennessee responded with an interception of their own, but that's when it flipped. Joey and Junior Sherrill talked about that after the game. And when you're Vanderbilt down the stretch here, you felt like you've had to play a perfect game, and that's very hard in the SEC. That Vanderbilt was in the ACC, or it's hard in college football in general. I mean, you saw it against in the Ball State game, right? Vanderbilt, they had to really fight and earn that one. So, end of the day, Tennessee's a playoff team. Vanderbilt's not. Vanderbilt's going to a bowl game. This was a really good season for them. But, today showed that Tennessee's ahead of Vanderbilt. I think we knew that. But they're not as far ahead of Vanderbilt as they were last year and as they were 2 years ago. 2 years ago, it was 56-0 on this field, and it looked like, it looked like Vanderbilt was never going to get to a point where they could beat Tennessee. They got a little closer today. I felt like, getting up 14-0. They're still not there, Joey. But today, and it might put a damper on the season for some fans. But Tennessee's a good team. That's a really good Tennessee team. Nico played really well. Sampson ran like a madman. I mean, he's going to be a really good pro. They've got pros. They've got more pros than Vanderbilt, and I think Vandy has to get to a point in their build to where talent-wise and depth of talent has to be there, and it has to be better. And so, again, today you saw a really good start, but Tennessee scored, was it 29 unanswered points there? You're not going to win a game like that. And I didn't think they really played horribly for a lot of that first half. Second half was ugly, though. I mean, they made some dumb mistakes. The penalties were killing them there, particularly in the second half. But, again, they felt like for a while that first half they had enough here to make something of this, but Heupel dominated the middle eight. They 14-0 in the middle eight. You couldn't lose the middle eight today, and Tennessee just really overpowered Vanderbilt, and that's what it looked like. And Vanderbilt really the last month or two has not been able to overpower anybody. Really all season, that's kind of how this team was. The margins were small. They had to have that pinpoint perfect execution, or else you're not winning the game. And again, the air was let out of the balloon after the interception right here in this end zone, and from then on it didn't feel the same.
Yeah, I think it's a good microcosm of where this rivalry is, because I think Vanderbilt is getting closer to where Tennessee is, but you saw today there's still a lot of ground to make up. Tennessee was down 14-0. Vanderbilt, I think for the first half of today, had about everything go its way. It had the fumble recovery deep within Tennessee territory. It had the kick return touchdown. It was a 14-0. It won the penalty battle in the first half, and everything seemed to be going its way, right? And it was losing at halftime. That's, I think, a good summation of where this thing was today. It felt more to me like the Georgia game from last year than the South Carolina game this year or the Alabama game this year. I think it was Vanderbilt coming in and punching Tennessee in the mouth early, and then cream rising to the top. And that's what happened today. Tennessee is a better team than Vanderbilt, flat out, and I think you saw that in every statistical category. Tennessee had the yardage advantage. Tennessee had all those things. That being said, Vanderbilt didn't get run off the field today. It had hope at some point, and I think that's something worth noting. I think this rivalry is closer, but again, like you said, the margin is just so small. They had to play a perfect game, and when Diego Pavia threw that interception to the corner of the end zone, it felt like all the wind got sucked out of their sails, and that was it. And if Tennessee had that happen, I think it could have responded. It actually did. It threw the interception, kind of counteracting that, and it responded. It scored 29 unanswered, and I think had a 36-9 run at some point of this game. That interception did not ruin its game. The interception Vanderbilt threw ruined the game for them. And I think that's kind of where I start, just in terms of the context of the rivalry.
Yeah, the Cole Spence drop as well was big. There were a couple of those. The interception and the Cole Spence drop, I look back at as two huge moments. But also, I want to go back to you had a 3rd and short there where Vanderbilt decided to pass, and you had a 4th and short, actually a couple 4th and shorts in the first half, right? That Vanderbilt elected to throw the football. And of course, the 4th and 2 they didn't convert. But really, that 4th and 2 is the big one there, where Vanderbilt was driving, and 4th and 2, they had at one point in the first half they're getting 4 yards a carry, and they were moving Tennessee around. They lost that, Joey. They were dominating, and manhandling Tennessee, and maybe that was Tennessee wasn't awake. They were sleepwalking, but I think it's a lot of Vanderbilt let up a little bit. They gave in to that mental fatigue of, here we go with this interception, and here's the crowd. I thought the crowd played a big role, and that's an impact that hurts this team, right? And I think, and I'm not blaming Vanderbilt fans for not showing up today, but I kind of am. Like, if you're a Vanderbilt fan complaining about the coaching today, or the players' effort, or a penalty today, maybe you being here, I know, but I'm maybe if there were 10,000 more Vanderbilt fans here, maybe that makes an impact. And again, I think we're still probably a year away from Vanderbilt fans making a home field impact, right? This year we didn't expect a 6-6 bowl season. I don't think really anybody did. So, and I'm not totally blaming fans, but I also don't want to hear from fans that, why is this a coaching malpractice, not going for it on this 4th down, or electing to throw the ball on 4th down, or whatever it might be. This environment had a big impact on this game. Tennessee felt comfortable. They felt at home. And yeah, I know it's hard. You're in the state of Tennessee. Tennessee fans are going to have a good amount in this stadium, but it didn't need to be as dominant as it was today, Tennessee crowd. And so I think that can change, but it's also on the program too. So, and I'm not blaming fans for the loss today. I don't want it to seem that way, but the crowd had an impact in a way that shouldn't be the case. I mean, this is your home field, and I know part of it is some construction, and part of it is where this team is in their build. But I think the fans had an impact, and again, the players in the field have an impact as well. But I thought that played a big role in Tennessee feeling comfortable, and the momentum, that they got loud after that interception because they knew how big that was in the moment. And I think that plays into the Vanderbilt players on this sideline, where they go, man, we got all kinds of orange in here. Where's this program? It just kind of players can have minds of their own as well, and I think that affects them. So I think that play affected them big time. And Tennessee rode that momentum with the crowd, and that can be a dangerous thing, momentum, especially when you've got all these fans behind you as well.
Yeah, and I don't think Vanderbilt as a program has a whole lot of momentum right now. Early in the year, they were riding it. Right now, it feels to me like they're kind of back to square one, and they're certainly not at square one. They have better personnel than they've had, things along those lines, but they're going to have to do it themselves now. People are counting them out, and I just think they're in a place that is a little bit darker than they were a couple weeks ago. I don't think their offense has a whole lot of solutions right now. That's something we've got to talk about. Going back to the fan thing, I think it certainly plays an impact, and I think that's something that's going to take a really long time to fix.
Yeah.
I don't think that's even next year, and there is something that people have to show up, but also, man, they've got to win some games. They haven't won games in how many years, and they're on a 3-game losing streak right now. So I don't know that it's as much me blaming the fans as me just blaming the overall environment. It's like, this is...
Well, it's what the program's been for ever, basically.
Why would you show up for it, right?
Yeah.
And I just think right now, as they're currently constructed, maybe the on-field stuff isn't a huge gap with Tennessee, but all we've talked about them having a revolutionary NIL charge and things along those lines for this program, it's still probably not even half of what Tennessee's got. So Tarkley's, I want to put it in context, he's fighting a real uphill battle here. And we're not making excuses for him, things along those lines, but I think the two infrastructures of the program are pretty different, and it almost reminds me of Lipscomb and Belmont in a way, to where Belmont's got the facilities, they've got the money, things along those lines. That's what it is here, right? And it's always going to be an uphill climb for Vanderbilt in this rivalry. We talked about it. We said, you asked me, when does Vanderbilt get to consistently winning these games? And I said, man, I don't know how I see the path to that happening. There was a stretch a couple years ago where that seemed to be somewhat of a reality, but it's tough, man. And it's not something that I think is going to happen super easily. I guess looking more into today specifically, I think you saw a lot of the issues that this team has. Offensively, They threw for 104 yards, 47% completion percentage. I think that's an issue. And I think to beat Tennessee, you've got to have a good downfield passing attack. Didn't have it today. I thought the offensive line got manhandled at times, even though it did some manhandling of its own early. And then defensively, the big issue for me, the secondary. And they switched up their front today. I think that backfired on them. And overall, their corners, man, just had a really rough day. Their secondary as a whole had a rough day. Today, to me, like I said, it felt like the Georgia game last year. It felt like something that was not a sustainable product that could win games. And if I didn't know any better, I would have thought this was a game from last year. And that's disheartening to think about for a Vanderbilt program that has made so much progress this year.
Yeah, you look behind us is the north end zone, and it looks really nice, right? Looks beautiful. It's pretty much done right now. The basketball team's practicing in it. This season feels a lot like the construction of the stadium. We've talked about that a lot. We talked about it a lot last year. North end zone looks great. It adds a new element to this environment. Well, this season added a new element to the way people think about Vanderbilt football as well. You beat Alabama, right? The greatest win ever. But you've also got the south end zone, and it doesn't look great. That's kind of an eyesore, right? That's how it is for this program right now. 6-6 doesn't look great. 3-5. Your corners getting toasted for 80-yard touchdowns doesn't look great. But that could be different next year. The south end zone is going to be done, and maybe we see not the completion of this program, but you can see a completion of this program. And so just like they got to finish up the south end zone, Clarkley's got a lot of work to do in this offseason as well. So, and I think the timing of the construction of this stadium works out with the timing of the program. In a weird, strange way, it always has. That last year, this was a pretty ugly place.
Right.
I mean, both end zones were construction zones, and Vanderbilt went 2-10 as a result. You get a nicer looking north end zone. South end zone still tough. This program is still under construction, right? And so I think that's a big thing to remember after today. Tennessee's headed to the playoff. Vanderbilt's not. They'll await their bowl game, and it'll be interesting. Liberty Bowl, Birmingham Bowl. We'll see. I've heard some rumblings of Las Vegas. We'll talk all about that. But I wanted to get some thoughts out. Again, Tennessee beats Vanderbilt 36-23 here at FirstBank Stadium. And big thanks to everybody for checking out these pregame and postgame reports all season long. And we got plenty of basketball coverage coming your way. But that's Joey Dwyer. I'm Billy Derrick, and thanks for watching another episode of the Vandy Sports Podcast.